Sherrone Moore is the guy that Jim Harbaugh wanted to succeed him, but he's kind of taking some of his best coaches with him to San Diego. So run us through who is staying, who's going, and what we should make of Jim Harbaugh taking basically most of the defense with him to LA.
Yeah, I mean, if you know anything at all about Jim Harbaugh, you know that winning football games is the number one priority in his universe. So if there's somebody at Michigan that can help him win games with the Chargers, that person is getting an offer from Jim Harbaugh. There is no sentimentality from Jim Harbaugh of, oh, I want to leave this guy for Sherrone Moore to give Sherrone Moore a better chance to win at Michigan. That's just not how Jim Harbaugh thinks. So it started with Ben Herbert, the strength coach, who is one of, if not, I think, the most important figures in this run of success that Michigan has had. Michigan thought they might have a chance to keep him. Jim Harbaugh came in with more money. He's going to the Chargers. Jesse Minter, the defensive coordinator, who is one of the hottest defensive coordinator names out there, he is going with Jim Harbaugh to the Chargers. That's not a big surprise. Mike Elston, the defensive line coach at Michigan, is going with Jesse Minter to be part of that staff. Some other support staff members at Michigan are going to be going there as well. So I don't think it's a real big surprise that Jim Harbaugh is pretty ruthless in trying to get everybody he can get from Michigan to join his staff, but it certainly has created a challenge for Sherrone Moore as a first-time head coach now to build a new staff around him.
It's a great point that you make about kind of like this is who Jim Harbaugh is. And Cam, I'd be curious your read on all of this too, because you've covered college sports for a long time, but you've also just covered coaches and the dynamics at play here. Does it surprise you that someone who, will do what it takes to win and is going to approach things that way and has gotten to the top of his profession by being exactly who he is would take away pieces that could help his successor at his alma mater after winning a national championship?
Yeah, I think just in my experience with coaches and knowing coaches, it's just, and you guys know this, college sports and sports in general is just a ruthless thing. Like you have to do whatever it takes to win. I'm not surprised Jim Harbaugh is taking all these coaches with him. I think he'd be doing himself and the Los Angeles Chargers a disservice if he didn't take the coaches that he thought was going to help him succeed right away. Sherrone Moore have to just build. I don't think the program, like, they're losing a lot of guys. He's taking a lot of coaches, but he'll have to build the program kind of in his own way. But I don't blame Harbaugh. You have to do what it takes to win, because he has his own family to feed. He's got his own team to lead as well.
It doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, Cam, people have brought up to me, well, when Urban Meyer, turned over the keys to Ryan Day, like he let Ryan Day keep the whole staff. It's a little bit different, right? Because Urban Meyer didn't leave Ohio State to take an NFL job, right? So, it's a little bit different deal with Jim Harbaugh going to the NFL with these coaches that he has coached with, coaches that he knows well, has a high degree of confidence in. But I think it's a really different situation for Sherrone Moore than for Ryan Day, just because Ryan Day, I think, did take over a program, that had a lot of the pieces in place. And Sherrone Moore's taking over a program still, coming off a national championship. Like the cupboard is certainly not bare at Michigan. But he's taken over a program that he's really going to have to rebuild a little bit. I think it's, maybe initially going to be a tougher task for Sherrone Moore than it was for Ryan Day at Ohio State.
Yeah, I think that is probably very true. And also something that is going to have to factor into the way that we view Michigan in year one under Sherrone Moore. There's a ton of talent that went to the NFL draft or graduated. Like this past season was the year that everyone geared up and decided to come back. So they are losing a lot of key players. And then you are going to have to replace a lot on the defensive side of the ball. Austin, the offensive side of the ball is going to look pretty similar so far, right? Like a lot of people have been kind of sliding up into the promotion roles. What else do you anticipate on that side of the ball when the OC then becomes the head coach? So you also do have an offensive minded guy as the head coach as well.
Yeah. So two names that we know are going to be part of the staff. Kirk Campbell is going to be the offensive coordinator. He was the quarterback's coach last year. Would expect him to call plays and coach the quarterbacks. And then Grant Newsome will be the offensive line coach. He was the tight ends coach a person who I think was really well regarded within the program, kind of on the same track as Sherrone Moore. Sherrone Moore came in as a tight ends coach, then he took over as the offensive line coach, and then became the offensive coordinator. And I think people see a similar progression for Grant Newsome, and then also J.B. Brown, who was an analyst, special teams analyst last year, has been promoted to special teams coordinator to replace Jay Harbaugh, who is going with Mike McDonald to the Seahawks. So those three guys right now are the three guys we know are going to be part of Sherrone Moore's staff. That still leaves 7 spots that he's going to have to fill. And there's a little bit of urgency because the clock's ticking now for Sherrone Moore to get this staff together.
The one that's most interesting to me is Austin, the first name that you mentioned, Ben Herbert, right? Strength coach. Like to me, that's such an important position in college football, and it's not the same in the pros. Like everyone's kind of more responsible for their own training and nutrition. It's a work, it's a job, it's work, it's a different dynamic than like a strength coach who's also kind of like a life coach for a lot of these players. So to me, like that one was a little bit surprising. Like you and I talked a lot about this as it was unfolding, and we were talking to Michigan folks that were hopeful that they would keep him, because I think it is a more valuable position in college football than it is in the pros. So that one does surprise me. The other coaches, Jesse Minter, that was someone that we anticipated was going to go with him all along. And everything else is kind of going a little bit by the book, but also putting Sherrone Moore in a situation now where he's got to make these decisions 2 months after a lot of coaches moved around. I think that's what's really interesting. And we're going to hit on this in Columbus too. But Austin, to have to look for coaches in February after the second national signing day, it's got to be difficult, right? Because a lot of people who maybe were gettable in December are not gettable now.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's part of the reason why we're seeing Sherrone Moore look more to the NFL ranks. A lot of the names that we have heard associated with Michigan's defensive coordinator search are NFL guys who are still in their hiring cycle. So it has, I think, handcuffed Sherrone Moore a little bit. The fact of the timing and the fact that this is happening all in the end of January, beginning of February. And so, it really is going to test some of the people in the organization who are getting promoted here. Justin Tress is going to be the strength coach now, and he was Ben Herbert's right-hand man. I think that there's a lot of confidence that he'll be able to continue what Ben Herbert did. But if you've ever seen Ben Herbert, like he is a unique individual. Like he's a big bald-headed dude who looks really intimidating. He's just kind of one of a kind. So, take him out of the equation and some of these other people that Michigan has lost. And we're going to find out if there are people waiting in the wings to replace those guys, or if it's more like, hey, some of these people are really hard to replace.